This video is designed for the SBM administrator who is preparing to move their users to the SBM Work Center interface. We will look at several tips and strategies to make this move as smooth as possible. If you're in a time crunch to switch users to Work Center, this is the video you need. There are many features in Work Center that are new, but we will only cover the basics to get you running as quickly as possible. There are additional videos that will cover the other features. SBM 10.1.3 was the first version that included the new Work Center user interface. After that, every release of SBM has included improvements to Work Center, but it also included the classic user interface that everyone was already using. SBM 11.4.2 was the last version to include both the classic interface and the Work Center interface. Of course, to get all the latest security fixes, support for newer databases, operating systems, browsers, all of those types of things, you will need to keep upgrading your SBM system. This means even if your users have not started using Work Center yet, they will need to switch over very soon. Moving to Work Center can be intimidating at first. Before you get too far, take the time to really plan out the move to Work Center. Are you going to stay on your current version of SBM and start moving users to Work Center now? Or do you want to upgrade SBM to the latest version and move users to Work Center at the same time? Either way, the tips in this video are going to get you started. There are separate videos about tips and ideas for planning the SBM version upgrade. In this video, we will focus on the move to Work Center. Encourage your users to watch the 30-minute comparison video available on YouTube. This video gives a side-by-side comparison of SBM Classic and SBM Work Center. The unknown can be scary for users. Once they see that these interfaces are different yet very similar, it should make it more easy and more comfortable for them to upgrade and change to Work Center later. Throughout the rest of this video, we will assume that you have already watched the comparison video and already understand the differences between the interfaces. If you are new to the SBM administrator role, consider meeting with a few power users to get a better understanding of how they use the system today and which features are most important to them. Another option might be to impersonate some of those users and look at their existing setups. Check to see if they're using folders, quick links, or do they have a home pages set up. Those are a few of the things that you could look for to get to know your users better. Also, consider if some users are more flexible and open to change. These users are usually better able to give constructive feedback that will help you to prepare the system for the more reluctant users. If you're already running SBM 10.1.3 through 11.4.2, you can start customizing Work Center now and encourage these users to start using the new system and get their feedback early. This type of early feedback can really help set you up for success later. There are a lot of views and possibilities in Work Center, but if you're in a rush to upgrade or move to Work Center, don't feel like you need to set up everything before the first go-live day. It's better to take your time and set up the system in pieces rather than to rush. You can use this checklist to get you started more quickly. This is a list of the minimum features and settings that you should review before moving to Work Center. Notice that some of the features were not introduced until later versions of SBM. If you're still running on an older version, you won't be able to take advantage of these until after your next upgrade. Let's jump into Work Center and look at each of these items. I'm going to be using SBM 12.0 for this demo because this is the newest version available today. As you saw in this slide, some of these options may not be available for you in the version you're running. The settings we're going to review are in the Application Administrator. They are under Work Center Settings. Keep in mind, these settings impact the entire system in general. These are not project specific. The first section we'll look at is the Work Center toolbar. In this area, you will first need to decide if you want to show the All option at the top of the user screen. As a reminder, this is the All option on the very top. It is automatically pinned for all users, but you can hide this option if you choose. You would just need to uncheck the box here. I encourage you to keep the All option, but it's really up to you. In the lower section, you can choose if you want to pin some of the applications for all your users. For example, if I wanted to pin our change request management, I would select it and click the arrow. That would move it over to the right. I can also uncheck items that I do not want to pin. Remember, this impacts all the users. So by adding this change request management, that will automatically put the change request management pinned application at the top for every user. Also here, you can select this box for locked. If you select locked, that means the users cannot unpin this application from the toolbar. You can pin as many as you would like, up to 5. Keep in mind, if you lock 5, the users will not be able to select any of their own applications to put at the top. Only 5 applications can be pinned at a time. So keep that in mind as you're deciding. Once you have finished in here, we'll just click Save. As an alternative, if you do not want to pin a specific application for the entire system, you can also pin applications by groups. To do that, you would come over to your group screen, find the group that you are interested in, and then go to Group Preferences and Work Center Toolbar. This is a similar screen to the one we were just looking at. You'll notice in here, we can also allow or disallow the All option, and we can also pin or unpin and also lock applications. The difference this time is this default will only be available for these users in this group. That means that the users in this group could have different pinned applications than the users in a different group. This makes the system very flexible and allows you to set these default pinned applications really easily. Let's go back over to our Work Center settings again. Work Center settings. Okay, next let's look at the side menu categories. The side menu categories controls the different options on the side. So if we look at SBM, this controls which of the available views we have on our left. Notice by default, we have dashboard, activity, calendar, backlog, Kanban, reports, and folders. On this screen, we can control which of those will be available and which will not. And remember, we are in the Work Center settings, so this will impact all users. Notice also that I have the All selected here. This means when I'm in the All section, I can select which categories will be available and which will not. And that can be different selections depending on which application I have selected. So each application could have different options. For example, let's go into our change request management and let's remove dashboards. All right, let's save that and go back to SBM. And now when I go to my change request management, you'll see that dashboards is gone. This gives you a lot of power during your upgrades. If you do not have time to set up dashboards and activities and calendars and backlogs and all these other views, you could go through and hide all of these views from each of your applications, and then the users won't even see those options. And that will give you a chance to set these options up later as you have time. You can come back at any time and reselect these and enable these options. For now, I'm going to keep these, so I'm going to discard these changes. Similarly to the toolbar settings, we can also change these by group. So we can also go over to our group, just as we did before. We can select a group, go to Group Preferences, and then we can see our side menu categories. The setup is a little bit different when you're looking at groups. By default, everyone will get the system settings that we were looking at a few minutes ago, but you can override those settings for a group. For example, if this group, you wanted to allow this group only to have dashboards, you could come in here and say Show. That way, it would show for this user group no matter what the system settings were set up to say. This is really nice because if you have a group of users who's more flexible and eager to learn new features, you could come in here and allow those groups to only access these items without turning them on for the whole entire system. There are also some views like backlog views and Kanban views, which are more popular with the developers. So if you have a group that is full of developers, you could consider showing these views for those users while hiding it for everyone else. Let's go back again to our settings. We'll discard these. Okay, Work Center settings. Okay, next we're going to look at the SLA menus. The SLA feature has always been part of our SSM products, and it was added to the standard SBM platform in SBM 11.2. The options here will automatically pin the SLA reports into your report section. Let's take a look. If we go over to SBM and look at an application, under reports, you will notice we have these default SLA reports at the bottom. So to hide these reports, we would come over here and we can uncheck these SLA options. If your team is not using the SLA feature today, I would come through and remove these and hide them. This will eliminate the confusion from your users about what these reports are for. Similar to our other views, these are separate settings for each application. So if you do not want to use these, you will need to come into each application and remove them. I've already removed them from some of my applications, but let's remove them from a few more. Okay. All right, let's keep going with our system settings. Let's discard those changes. The first section we have here is the theme gallery. By default, Work Center has this blue theme, but we also have this modern sand theme that you can select. This is more of a brown color and is more similar to the classic view. If you want, you can change the default to use this sand. You can also use this Add Theme option to create your own color arrangements that match more with your corporate standard. Just for fun, I made this crazy looking one over here. You can select the default here and choose if this is the selected theme for all users or not. The users will also be able to select their own theme in their settings. If we switch over to our settings, we can see that under Settings, and this is under Display, and we have each of our themes here. You can see the checkbox for the one that I have selected currently, but users could select the one that they like the best. All right, let's go back over. Okay, there's an option here to enable social view. If you haven't seen that yet, you should watch some of our other videos on social view. There's also some security settings here, but we're going to skip over them. The defaults seem to work pretty well for most people. So we're going to skip down through some of those, down to this attachment area. This first attachment section allows you to decide about downloading attachments that are on an individual item. You can set these settings if you would like to make sure that the items are downloaded to the person's computer rather than opened within the browser. So that's what these settings are for, and you can look at the help if you need more information, but this is where you would set up some of those type of security options. Let's jump down here now to the File Attachment Restrictions section. In this section, you can decide what types of files can be attached to an item, the number of files that are allowed to be attached, and the maximum size for each individual file. Let's look at the Restriction Type section first. By default, the Allow option is selected. This limits the system to only allow users to attach files with the file type listed in this box down here. By default, this is .log or .txt files. You may need to add more file types to this list, such as PDF or doc. Also, if you use NoteLogger or Email Submit, remember the system usually attaches the emails to the item as a PDF. It also attaches embedded images as PNG files. If you use these features, you will need to add PDF and PNG to the list. Otherwise, these files will be blocked and not added to your items. If you want to allow users more freedom and flexibility, you can also change this to be a deny list. If you use the deny list option, the file types listed below become the deny list. For example, you might want to deny users from attaching SCF files. These are a shell scripting file. By denying SCF files, you could reduce your risk of hackers or other malicious scripts from running. Previous versions of SBM did not have any restrictions. To match that, you would use the deny option and then leave the deny list blank. However, we would recommend leaving the SCF option, maybe the EXE option, and any other scripting file extension options that you can think of. Let's move down and look at the number of files per item. This option will limit the number of files that can be attached to a single item. Remember, if you use Email Submit or NoteLogger, the system will add copies of those files as a PDF to the item. You will need to account for this in the value that you choose. If the value is too low, then new items will no longer be allowed to be attached to the item. Previous versions did not have any restrictions. To match that, set this value to something high, like 100, which is the maximum that you can attach to a single item. The next option down is the maximum file attachment size. This is the maximum size for any individual file. Again, previous versions did not have a restriction. Unless you have special needs, I would probably not go higher than 100. But think about the files in your system and make the decision that's right for you. You can always come back later and increase or decrease this file size later. The maximum here is 500 megabytes. Okay, our next section is for notifications, and we have the notification link type option. This controls the links that are in the item notification emails. By making sure the Work Center option is selected, when users click the link in the notification email, they will be taken automatically to the Work Center view instead of the Classic view. This is particularly important if you still are on a version that has both views. The next section we have is for username duplicate resolution. This is a cool new feature that was added in SBM 11.8. This option tells the system what to do if there is a user list where there is more than one user with the same name. For example, if you have two users named John Smith, it's hard to know which of the two users to select. By turning this feature to on, you can then select some additional text that will display next to the usernames in order to help you distinguish them. You can use the question mark icon to get the different options. I like to use title myself and click Save. This will put the title string down at the bottom. You could leave it like this, or you can add more text as well. You could put title, for example. Now, when there is a duplicate user, it will have the username first, then it will have a parenthesis, the word title, then it will display the user's title and have a close parenthesis. Larger accounts that have many users would find this feature very helpful. Let's jump down to the branding section next. Let's discard our changes. Okay. This page will allow you to change the logo that we display in the top left corner of Work Center. To change your logo, what you need to do is first go onto the server and place a copy of your logo into the Application Engine, Bin, Images, SWC folder. Just place it here in the folder. Then, on our settings screen, you will change the name of the file here to be the name of your logo that you upload. You can also change the link here of what will happen when the user clicks on that logo. You may want this to go to your corporate intranet site or another location, but by default, it will go to the Micro Focus SBM product page. You can also change the header and footer text. Let's put something in here just for fun. Header text is here. And let's put something down in the footer text just for fun. Okay. All right, let's save that. Now let's jump over to SBM and see how it looks. And we need to refresh. Okay, now we can see our header text is up here at the top and our footer text is down here at the bottom. I should mention that these changes to the logo and the images will only impact the Work Center view. It does not change the login screen. We'll talk more about the login screen in a little bit. That covers several of the settings and options that we needed to look at inside of Work Center. The last thing we looked at again was branding, and that only allowed us to change the branding of Work Center itself, not the login screen. So this knowledge article is the one that will show you the instructions on how to change the login screen as well. I also want to mention that if your users take advantage of the folder feature in SBM Classic, you will need to watch this short video. It explains how to upgrade the folders and make them available in Work Center. You can skip this step if your users are not using folders. That covers all of the options and settings for if you are in a hurry and you are trying to upgrade to Work Center as quickly as possible. But if you have just a little bit more time, these are some more options that I would consider looking at. You could set up dashboards or activity views or some of the other views that are available. Even if you only set these up for a few groups now, you can always come back and set up other groups later and just set them up over time. There are also many other cool new features that have been added to SBM over time that you may not be aware of and may not be taking advantage of. If you have time to explore some of these, you might find some hidden gems that would help your business. I've listed a few of my favorites and their version numbers here. Depending on your version of SBM, you might even try some of these now before you upgrade. Just in case you do have a little more time, I'd like to give you some tips on setting up dashboards. The same idea will be true for other views, but we're going to focus on dashboards. The default dashboard using for new users. It's better to customize them to help the users get started. You can make different dashboards for different groups. You can also pin dashboards by default for specific groups. Also, consider allowing some groups to make their own dashboards. Let's jump over to Work Center and take a look. This is a default dashboard for my incident management application. You will see it is not very exciting. It is really full of these sample widgets that are designed to give you an overview on how to use dashboards, but they're not very helpful for an average user. So what we want to do is come in here and update this dashboard and get it ready for our users. To do that, you will go under Dashboards and then select your dashboard. And now you will notice this is a slightly different view. We still have our dashboard in the middle, but it is a little bit different. At the top, we have this option for Private View and System View. When you switch over to System View, you're now looking at the dashboard that is the default for all users. Okay, so we're looking at the My Dashboard dashboard, and we're looking at the System View. So anything we do here will impact all users of the system. So the first thing I like to do is come and delete all of these little sample sections and get those out of our way. So let's just delete those. And we'll delete that one. We got one more. Delete those. Okay, and next you can add a widget. This is how you add the little boxes to your dashboard. So we click Add Widget. We can select if we're going to add a report or an activity or a URL. We'll cover these in more detail later in another video, but right now let's just select Report. That's the most simple option. When you select Report, you then get a list of all of the reports that you have in this application. And let's just pick one. We can have our report title listed here, but we could change it if we want it to look slightly different for our dashboard. And on the side, we can select how tall we want this report to display. I'm just going to leave it at medium. Okay, and if you want, you can also choose a refresh interval, which is a little bit different. Okay, so let's say Finish. And this will add our widget to our dashboard. Let's just add a couple more. So let's say Add Widget again. We'll do Report, and let's select a listing report this time. And we'll say Finish. Okay, here's our report. Okay, so you will notice that every time we add a widget, it's always placed in the top left corner. If we scroll down, we can see our other report here. Now, you can reorganize these by just dragging and dropping them. If I put my mouse over the title bar, you'll see the mouse changes, and I can just drag it, and I'm going to put it on the right. There we go. Now our dashboard has two reports, one on the left and one on the right. This might be great, or we could always add more widgets and create more items on our dashboard. We can also change the look of our dashboard by using this layout button. When you click the layout button, you can select if you want one section of your dashboard to be bigger. Maybe we want our listing report to have more space, so maybe we want to give him this other design. There we go. Now our listing report is a little wider and our other report is a little bit more narrow. Once you get the report set up the way that you want, you can click the X. Notice there's no save button. Everything is automatically saved as you make your changes. So let's click our close button. Now when we look at the My Dashboard view, we will see our new dashboard. That's a little hard to read. Let's scoot this over a little bit. There we go. That's better. When you're setting up dashboards, be sure to set up this My Dashboard view to be something a little generic. And that's because everybody in the system will see the same My Dashboard view. A lot of places will set this to something like all items I own or all items I have submitted or something like that. And they just have a couple listing reports here. And that's fine. You can decide for your situation what works for you. Just know that the My Dashboard view is for everybody who's using this application. They will see the same My Dashboard view. You can, however, create different dashboards for different groups that are more specialized and more specific. To do that, you go back up to Dashboards, and then you'll see the Create Dashboard option. When we select that, we can give our dashboard a name. Let's say, I don't know, Developers Dashboard. I don't know, whatever we want it to be called. If we want, we could give it a description. That part's not important for creating it. The important part is to come over to the Share tab at the bottom. When you click on Share, you are selecting who can see this dashboard. So under here, you could select anybody. The All User is in here automatically, and you can select that if all users should see this dashboard. Or you could select a specific group that you want to be able to see this dashboard. You can also select specific users. But let's just say that I want this to be for, I don't know, my business analyst. All right, so we're going to click the plus here, and that will add our business analyst to the side. Now we can give this group privileges to our dashboard. By default, they're just a viewer and they can look at the dashboard. However, if we click on here, we can also make them a collaborator. A collaborator is somebody who can change the dashboard. Once the dashboard is changed, it will be changed for everybody. So you want to limit who is a collaborator. Okay, we'll leave this at viewer for now. You can select as many as you want and select them over onto the right-hand side. If you check this little box at the bottom, it will also send the users who are a member of this group a little email to let them know that a new dashboard is available. Once you're done, just save your changes. And the system will prompt and ask you if you're ready to add widgets to your dashboard. Let's just say yes. So now we are brought in where we again are allowed to select reports, activities, or URLs to put on our dashboard. Let's do a report. I don't know. Let's see. What kind of report do we want? Let's just pick this one. Okay, and let's make this one small this time. I don't know. Let's click small and say finish. Okay, so now we have our new dashboard. It's got one widget on it, and we can keep adding more widgets. We can change the layout. Maybe we only want one widget, so we want to let it be nice and wide. That's fine too. Remember, the only trick is to make sure that the shared view option is highlighted when you make changes. That way, all of your changes will impact everybody who uses this dashboard. Okay, we will click the little X now. So now the users that were a member of our CR administrator group will all be able to see this developer dashboard on their view. So they will have to go under dashboards, and then they will see it here, and then they can pin it for themselves. Okay. Another option, as the administrator, you could pin this dashboard for them. So let's take a look at that. That is in the application administrator. You would go to groups. Our group that we were doing was the CR administrators. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was the business analyst, wasn't it? It was the business analyst. All right, so let's go into the business analyst, and we'll go into the group preferences, and we can go to our side menu settings. Okay, over here, we will see each of our sections. And what we want to do is go back into our application. We were in the incident management application, and we want to pin our dashboard. So we would come up to dashboard and we click a plus. Here's our dashboard that we just created, and we'll click the little arrow to put it over here and click OK. Okay, now by doing this, the developer dashboard will be automatically pinned for everybody who is in this group. So as you can see, it's very powerful to be able to create your dashboards and then come in and pin them automatically for those users. This way you don't have to explain to the users how to find the dashboards or how to pin them. You can pin them automatically for them. Okay, let's jump back over to Work Center. Let's just take one more look at another aspect of the dashboards that I want to explain. Any users may not like the dashboards that you set up. For example, if you set up the My Dashboard view, users might think, this is great, but it just doesn't quite work for me. So what those users can do is they can come in to their My Dashboard area and open it up. Now, when they do this and they start adding widgets, they won't even see the system view. It will only give them the private view. And now they can still come in here, just like what you did, and add widgets in here and adjust the dashboard. But the changes that they make will only impact themselves. It will not impact any other users in the system. It only impacts themselves. So it's a good idea to get the My Dashboard set up and looking good in a generic way, but users can also customize it to be a little bit better for their situation. Also, you will notice this little lock icon over here. That means that this is a widget that is part of the system view and it cannot be removed. So you'll notice the garbage can is gone from here. They can't delete that. So if this was on the dashboard and the users don't like this particular report, they could either put it way down on their page so they're not looking at it, or they can click the little collapse and just leave it shut. And that way it's not taking up quite as much space. Now, we were just using dashboards as our example on how to create dashboards and then pin them for users by groups. But the same types of features are available for all of the other views on the site as well. So if you wanted to come into activities, you could do something similar, create the activities, and then over in the sharing area, you would share those with groups, one or more groups, and then you would come over to the application administrator, and then you could pin those by default over here as well. So you can make as many of those different views and pin them as you need and as fits for your situation. Now you might be wondering what happens if somebody is in more than one group and both of those groups have pinned dashboards. What happens in that situation? Well, I will show you a little trick. There is a configuration option under Work Center settings, and then we have our side menu priority. You will notice over here that we have several groups listed. These are groups that have default items set up. And by changing the order of these, we can move these up and down to reconfigure their order. If there was more than one pinned dashboard, any that are pinned as part of the IDM administrator will appear first before dashboards that are part of the CR administrator group. So this kind of gives you a method of ordering those default pinned items based on the priority of the group. This is a system setting, so it will impact all users. So keep that in mind too as you are adjusting these levels. We have talked a couple of times about allowing users the ability to make their own dashboards. So I feel like we should go back and just review that one more time. It may have slipped past earlier in our video. So let's double check that. So what I mean when I say that is that you may decide to come over here to the side menu categories, and you may decide to turn off a bunch of these views because you just don't have time to set them all up right now, right? So you may choose to turn a bunch of these off and save them. But let's say that you have one group who is part of this change request management team, and they would really like to try using dashboards. But you've already decided you don't want dashboards to be available in general. So you would turn it off here, right? So that in general, there's no dashboards, but you want to turn it on for one group. So you would come back over to your group area, and I don't know who that group is. Let's pretend it's this group. Okay, and then you would go into your group preferences, and you have your side menu category, and you can come over to the application we're talking about, and you can choose to show the dashboards. So now for this group, even though at a system level, dashboards are hidden, for this group in this project, dashboards will be showing. Okay, and that means that now the users in this group will be able to come over and go to this project. I'm not in that group, so it's hidden for me now. That's fun, isn't it? Let's stay over here. So the users in that group will be able to come over to the project, and they will now see the dashboard option, and they will be able to create their own dashboards. Nobody else in the company will be able to see them in that project, but this group will be able to see the dashboard option over here. That's what we mean by giving groups access to dashboards to create them themselves. This is also a great method if you decide to go live without having any dashboards initially, then dashboards would be hidden everywhere. But as an administrator, you could come into your group and, let me go back over here to the groups. You could go into your groups and you could enable dashboards and everything else for just you, for just your group. And then you can set up your dashboards, get them all running and get them all beautiful. And then once they're all running, then you could turn dashboards back on, either at the system level or at the group level. So you can take your time and set up those dashboards little by little over time, and rather than feeling like you need to set up all of them all at one time. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint. All right, so we have talked all about dashboards. Activities are very similar. You can create activities and you can share them with groups. You can pin them for those groups, and you can also give users access to create their own activities rather than you needing to set up everything. So that is really your choice. But those dashboard and activities are the most popular views if you only have a little bit of time and you want to look at it, just a couple things. Those are the ones we would recommend. We do have some additional videos that cover dashboards and activities in more details and how to set up the different options. So take a look at those videos as well. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.